All right. Well, I hope you stuck with that and watched the whole piece because I found it to be really a helpful, like, compilation of a lot of things that are going to be relevant across the lifespan. So I hope you watched it. Anyway, you may not even be watching what I'm saying. So, well, you are. All right, let's get to birth. All right, finally, we are going to go through the birth process. So, the average first birth, active labor will last about 12 hours. So, obviously that means that some women are going to be much shorter in their laboring time and some are going to be much longer than that. But on average, it's about 12 hours. It's broken into three stages. The first stage is the process of dilation. And so as to not, hey, where'd my grapefruit go? Hold on a second. Where'd my grapefruit go? Sorry, you guys are seeing some background work. All right. So stage one is dilation. Here, like I said, they always compare stuff to food with regard to pregnancy. I don't know why that is. Because it says 10 centimeters is fully dilated, and the average grapefruit is about 10 centimeters. So is this a ruby red grapefruit, or is this a pomelo that's the ancestor of a grapefruit? Exactly what kind of grapefruit do you mean? 10 centimeters is a little confusing for us Americans also because that we don't really know how big 10 centimeters is. It's about 2.5 inches. So what is nice, I thought, about this picture is that it breaks the labor into its three main parts. Early labor is when the cervix is dilating from 0 to 4 centimeters. The cervix is the opening to the uterus, and the muscles of the uterus have to pull that open. And so that's where the pain comes from. If you've ever, held something in your arm with your arm flexed for some amount of time, your arm starts to hurt, right? Well, that's what's happening with the uterine muscles, is that it's trying to pull open the cervix, and it's hard. And so it's cramping and like that. Having said all that, a lot of women don't even notice their early labor. They'll go to their regular doctor's appointment and find out that they're already 4 centimeters dilated and they didn't even really notice it. Other women will feel every single movement from 0 to 0.1 and they will feel every single tiny bit of it. So people vary in that, and for one pregnancy to the next, the same woman might have more or less pain. So there's a lot of variation. Most women are aware that they're in labor when they're in the active labor stage, which is between 4 and 8 centimeters of dilation. And during this period, they can usually talk between the contractions, but the contractions are lasting at least a minute at a time. And during the contractions, the mom will usually not be able to talk. She'll maybe be panting a little bit. She might have to stop walking or stop what she's doing because of the pain. So during active labor, women know that this is happening. The worst part of labor is absolutely the last 2 centimeters, 8 to 10 centimeters of dilation. That's the most painful. The contractions are happening as close together as they possibly can. Sometimes it may feel like you're doing nothing but contracting with no breaks between during the transition phase, but it's that last little bit and then full dilation occurs. So stage one is that whole series of events that typically, is not fun. Like, they call it labor for a reason, for sure. Stage 2 of labor is the delivery of the baby. And so you can see here in the top left that the cervix hasn't begun contracting at all. And then by the one on the far right of the top panel, the cervix is fully contracted and the baby starts to descend down into the birth canal. And then ultimately, I'd like to say this baby, if you can tell in the bottom left, is a good baby because this baby is coming out face down. So it's the soft part of its head is toward mom's spinal column. Mean babies who don't like their mommies, they rub their bony occipital bone against mommy's spinal column, and that causes back labor, and mommies don't like back labor. That hurts. So this one's a nice baby who loves his mommy, and then he comes out and has to be twisted a couple of different ways to get him through that pelvic opening, and then ta-da, delivery of the baby is stage 2. So stage 1 is everything up to getting ready for the baby to be able to descend into the birth canal. From the moment that you're fully dilated and the baby can start descending until the baby actually emerges, that's considered stage 2. So what's left to be stage 3? The baby was just delivered. Well, we have something left to deliver, and that's the placenta and afterbirth. The placenta is, okay, the average baby weighs about 7.5 pounds, and the average placenta weighs about 4.5 pounds. So it is not that much smaller of something that needs to be evacuated from the uterus. And it's actually a really important stage of delivery because we want to make sure that the entire placenta comes out intact and doesn't leave anything behind, because that can cause infection. So it actually, the doctors are just as important, attending to the delivery of the placenta as they had been to the baby. While the placenta is being delivered, usually the baby is off being assessed by the nursing staff and things like that. So I've got some videos that you are not required to watch by any means, because they will contain scenes of live birth. Don't worry, they're not going to pop up in the middle of this lecture. But there are many choices that need to be made surrounding the birth of a baby. One is whether drugs are going to be used or not. I do have a video on the nun, but before you go, I just want to set you guys up for, sorry, I'm in a cycle here, the different options for drugs. So there's none, and I have a video of a mom who has chosen none. And then we have sort of the least invasive kind of drug would be the analgesics, and I've got the brand name of Demerol here. This is kind of a drug that they oftentimes will describe it as taking the edge off, because this is sort of a drug that doesn't really block pain, but just makes you not really care that it's happening. And so that you can then calm down and sort of, relax into it. Tranquilizers, again, they're not going to block pain, but they're going to make it so that you can not really be tense because of the pain, or that anxious about the pain. And then finally, we have the granddaddy of all of the ones that will actually block pain, and this would be an epidural. So I'm going to turn you loose to watch the no drugs at all delivery, and then the epidural assisted delivery, and then I will see you on the other side. If you don't want to watch them, skip over them, and I'll see you on the other side.